Hey, welcome to the KMC Roundtable. My name's Conor. I'm here with Mitch and Kaz. First up on the board, we've got the Derrick Rose injury that just recently happened. As you guys know, he's been injured on and off for the last couple of seasons. What do you guys think about this?
Well, as you know, he recently just suffered a fractured orbital bone early on in their training camp. A 2-week timetable to return, so it's not as bad. Torn ACL, 2 meniscus in the last 3 seasons. He's missed a lot of time. I'm pretty optimistic. I'm hoping that he comes back. I got the Bulls doing well in the season. I'm rooting for him. This is pretty much a minor injury. I think that he can come back from this, and it's my thoughts more than anything.
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, I'm pretty opposed to that point. I'd say, I don't know, well, knee injuries are pretty risky nowadays. I don't know if I can see him coming back. He obviously was the youngest MVP a couple of years ago in NBA history, an elite player. But I just don't see the Bulls knocking out my Cavs at all out of the playoffs. D Rose would be nice if he came back, but injuries on injuries. I just have to see what happens for the most part.
Yeah, I also think the big thing is there's a new coach this year, and he's expected to spread around the minutes a little better. This might result in a fresher team, which can only benefit D Rose, right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I gotta agree. He's obviously an all-star caliber player, young MVP, as you said. So, most beneficial is just to keep him on the court and help as many games as possible. Jimmy Butler's been doing good, but he can't do it all himself. D Rose has to help if that team wants to do anything this year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point. He definitely needs some help. New coach, change things up. Something's got to change. Naturally, he's an explosive player, which really does not help his knees. It's just his style of play, almost in general, is bad for his injuries. New coach, then switch up his the way he kind of rotates around things could help him out. But the wear and tear might be a bit too much at this point.
All right, moving on. Of course, we're from Canada, so how do you guys think the Raptors are going to do this year?
I got high hopes for them. The addition of DeMar Carroll is really going to help them. Big thing with Dwayne Casey, their coach, defense. Guy's a bulldog on the defensive side of the floor. I think that's only going to be beneficial. Recently picking up Anthony Bennett, their 15th guy. First overall pick a couple years ago. High potential guy. He just hasn't panned out. Maybe coming back to his home ground in Canada is going to help him out. They took some tough losses, but I'd like to see him win a playoff series or so. I think they have the team to do it. I think the East is going to be stronger, so maybe they get a little lower seed, but I think they definitely have a chance to upset or win a series.
Yeah, I definitely think also last year they were really lucky with their injuries, right? And they're going to have to repeat that again, have that same sort of luck if they want to be successful. When you only have DeMar DeRozan and Lowry as your only 2 major injuries combined for 32 games, that's pretty lucky. So what do you think? That should be a big factor going into this season as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Raps are pretty interesting right now. You look at what Dwayne Casey's done in Toronto. Over the past 4 years, he's literally flipped their record around, from wins, losses. The adding of Carroll, like Mitch you mentioned, is pretty huge. Personally, I would really love to see them get out of the second round of the playoffs or into the second round of the playoffs. The Raps have never made it that far. So in general, for Canadian basketball, that'd be huge. The best the franchise has ever done. And with the whole uprising of Canadian basketball right now, I think it's really interesting. And most importantly, Anthony Bennett, it's pretty interesting to note that if he does not make it in Toronto, he might not make it in the NBA in general. If this is his 3rd NBA team in 3 years, as first overall pick 3 years ago, it's never happened before. It's really make or break for this guy. It's interesting to see what he can do. Being back in Toronto, I wish him the best, but this is potentially his last opportunity in the NBA.
Nice. Okay, so yeah, you mentioned Canadian basketball, and we'll come back to that in a second. But first, we're going to switch over to Twitter here. As you know, we've got our hashtag KMC Roundtable where you can ask us questions. So if you ever want to get in touch with us for future weeks. But here we've got at RapsFan93 asking, who's your favorite pick for the potential final matchup this year? Thoughts, guys?
Well, I'm going to go pretty standard. I'm going to call the same matchup as last year, Golden State against Cleveland Cavaliers. The Eastern Conference is a really weak conference. Unfortunately, Toronto's also in that conference, but I just don't see anybody really giving Cleveland a run for their money with LeBron James. He's really hungry right now. He wants that title. He wants to bring a championship to Cleveland. And with Golden State, with Steph Curry MVP last year, he's definitely not a fluke. So, I'm going to call it the same matchup as last year.
I'm going to go a little off the board here. Take some shot on some hopeful teams. Out of the West, I'm banking on the Clippers. They're a great show to watch. They just brought back DeAndre Jordan, which is a huge piece for them. Without him, I don't think they're quite as competitive a team. I mean, Chris Paul's an elite point guard in this league. I think Blake Griffin's only going to continue to grow as a player, and I think they can come out of a tough West where it's pretty much anyone's game. And then over in the East, I'm going with the Chicago Bulls. As I said before, I'm pretty optimistic about D Rose. I think D Rose if he can come back and put together a strong year. I mean, I know Cleveland's strong team. Injuries are already getting them a little bit with Shumpert and J.R. Smith, I think, received an injury not too long ago. So, I mean, anything can happen. I think the Bulls, Jimmy Butler can put together an MVP-like year where he's in the conversation. I think D Rose, with the help minutes, is going to really help them. I think they can come out of this week East.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on the Bulls. I think D Rose has something to prove this year. I think he's going to have another breakout year. But from the other division, I'm going to go with OKC. I think Kevin Durant is going to come back about halfway through the year. I think he's going to be fresh for the playoffs. I think he's going to have a really big year. I think he's going to be able to do something big over there. Okay, moving on to our next Twitter question. We've got a question from @ballislife_hoopsman. He's wondering, who's your pick for the potential MVP? Could Steph Curry repeat, possibly?
Personally, I'm a big LeBron fan, always have been. Follow him wherever he goes. So I'm going to have to vote on LeBron. Again, like I said before, I just really think this guy, he's trying to leave a legacy right now, even he's after that championship in Cleveland, so I'm going to have to go for LeBron.
I'm going to go a little off the board here again. I'm going to go Anthony Davis. I mean, he really put it all together last year. He had over 24 points, over 10 rebounds, double-double game player, huge defensive star, about 3 blocks a year, leading the league. He made big shots, and he was even better in the playoffs. I mean, they just lost to a better team. If they can build something around him, I mean, he's their MVP. I think he could be this league's MVP.
Yeah. I'm going to go for a bit of a cop-out answer here. I'm going to say yes, Steph Curry could repeat. I mean, you put up huge numbers last year, and you made it look so easy. And, I mean, of course, being the reigning champ and reigning MVP, you got to give him the nod as the favorite there. All right, I said we were going to get back to Canadian basketball, so let's get back to that. What do you think's going on with Canadian basketball right now? As you know, it's on the incline. They just lost out at this shot to get to the Rio Olympics, but they've got one more shot. So let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, personally, Conor, I mean, I'm stoked with Canadian basketball right now. Just the entire uprising, it's just, you can see the wave that's going on right now everywhere, even across the globe, just how everything is kind of doing. I've never seen this much play before. I remember back in the days of 93 when Vince Carter was first blowing up things in Toronto. You used to never really see kids play basketball on the streets. I watched a documentary about this actually recently, talking about that, how it used to never really be a thing. You'd see kids playing hockey, but nowadays basketball is a really big thing in Canada. More people competing even at elite levels in the NBA and the NCAA.
I mean, I think it's funny you bring up hockey because Forbes recently just said that basketball is now the fastest growing sport in Canada over hockey. So, I mean, obviously basketball is growing. It's getting a lot of attention, especially with the success of the Raptors lately. I mean, it's a big deal. And, I mean, you got to look for the future, too. I mean, Steve Nash is putting together a great team with them over in FIBA. Anthony Bennett played better over there for that FIBA squad. And the 26 Canadians in the NCAA tournament last year, I mean, a lot of young players, so only hope for them.
Great. I think that's all the time that we've got today, but hopefully you join us next week on KMC Roundtable. Thank you.